Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this evening's new member orientation presentation. I'm Stan Schulman and will be leading the meeting this evening. I'd like to thank all those presenting tonight for making themselves available and being very patient as we updated all the information for this new season. The new member orientation is held in September and again in January. And it provides an important opportunity for us to meet the new members and for you to meet us. In this way, you can put a face to the persons of responsibility and get to know us personally. The first presenter this evening is Kathy Moore, who has been a member with our club for 8 years. She is a board director, communications chair, and member of the new members committee. It's all yours, Kathy.
I feel like you just did it. I'm going to start with the things a little bit more detail about the things I do. And I think the biggest contribution I have to the club, at least my thoughts, are I put together the newsletter that goes out every week. I send out a reminder every Thursday. It's like, come on, get your stuff in. And then, yeah, it worked. There's a fair bit of work that goes into it. And I'm just trying to think. When you look at the newsletter, at the very bottom, it gives some links to our Facebook page. I'm trying to remember what was there. Twitter account, I think, and possibly Instagram. So you can always explore through that. And while I'm talking about Facebook, I'm sure there's somebody going to be talking about social media later, but just in case, we have 2 Facebook pages. One is open to the public, and we have one that is just for members only. It's a private group. So if you're interested in joining that, send me a message either through the chat tonight or so what you're looking for is the alumni, members and alumni of the Toronto Camera Club. Yeah, so it's a good place for people to share their stuff or things that they find. I also do help a little bit with the website. I'm put the majority of the things into the calendar. And hopefully I've got it right now. And there's a place on the website called upcoming events, which I try to keep updated with them, what's coming up the week. Salon newsletters, I put those out too. We have ones that go out to previous members, of which our list is like over 1,000 people now, so it's pretty impressive. I think that's all I can think of right now, unless I've forgotten something. Have I forgotten anything, Stan?
It looks like you've covered it all. We've got the salon, the club, and website. Yeah, we've done it. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Standing in for Ray Anderson is our past president, Christopher Sue. You've all met him now. And according to my club records, I don't know if Christopher agrees with me, but he joined in 1994. That means 27 years ago. He's also a board director and a nature chair for competitions and out-of-town outings. He's also able and capable to stand in for anything. You just have to ask him. It's all yours, Chris.
Okay, thanks, Stan. Yeah, why don't you just pop the screen, because I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say. Okay, good. Okay, so I am standing in for Ray Anderson, who's the current club president. The president has a 2-year term, and I was the previous president, so I'm the past president. So as you can see, this is how the governance of the club is organized. We have president, first, second vice president, secretary, treasurer, And the current board of directors, who are made up of 12 members, which, as you can see on the board, includes the president and myself as well. We generally meet monthly, and we discuss club matters, decide on how to spend money or make repairs and whatever. In addition, we have a number of, I guess we call them persons of responsibilities, or PORs. And these are all the volunteers, as I mentioned previously, who help run everything that's happening in the club. These are just a chairperson. And so if you look to the screen to the right-hand side, the program is, I guess, produced every year by Alice and Sarah. And they have to fill in a very comprehensive program, because we are meeting both on Mondays and Thursdays. And in addition, sometimes on the weekends if we have outings. And this year, we have some meetings on a Wednesday. We're doing some image evaluations. And below that program screen are the competitions. So as I mentioned also, that we have a lot of competitions. The chair of the competition is Dora Orbach, which is present. As you can see that he is here. And also, so there are a number of competitions. I run the nature competition. You can see we have assigned topics. I think we'll go into more detail later. Audio visual, which are slideshows, pictorial, creative, prints, if we have prints. It used to be a big part of our competition nights, but there's no prints right now. So this is just in case we can hold print competition. The only reason why we don't have print competition is because it requires the judges to come in person to look at the prints. And right now we are not meeting in the club. So until we are able to meet in the club, and until we can get judges who's willing to come to look at the prints at the club, we won't have print competitions. And at the bottom of that is the International Salon. I'll just briefly talk about it because I think we will be introduced to it later. It is the Salon is an international competition. It's been running continuously for the past 127 years, which makes it one of the oldest international photography competition in the world. And it's one of the most reputable. We have thousands of images, hundreds of entries from people from all over the world. And if you're into this type of thing, people earn points, international recognition, North America ranking, and all that by entering these international competitions. They are sanctioned by international organizations, so it has to conform to certain rules and regulations and so on. And the club is also part of CAPA, which is the, I think it's the Confederation. It's a Canadian Association of Photographic Arts. Sorry, I forgot what the acronym stands for. We're a member of that. And O3C, which is the Ontario Camera Club Council, or Council of Camera Clubs. We are mostly using O3C as our umbrella organization because it provides us with judges and workshops, and they hold meetings and also a big inter-club competition during the year. Okay, next slide. I want to know what else I have to say. Okay, wow, look at all this. This is a huge list, almost impossible for a new member to absorb. But these are all the programs that require members to support. So we have a lot of volunteers, and we are always constantly looking for even more volunteers. So I suggest that if you're new, once you get your feet wet, you may have some experience with some of these programs already, such as new member committee, the new member buddy program that Stan is running, and then the membership communication lecture series, which is a big part of our program. There are 12 lectures, which will start in October, I think, or November. There will be 6 before Christmas, and after the new year, there will be another 6 lectures. Image evaluation, brand new. I am doing that tomorrow just to give a heads up to some of the new members. There are actually a lot of people involved with that. I think in this particular slide, it just shows 4 of us, but actually there are 8 of us altogether, I think. So a lot. You can see there's a lot of things. I don't think I need to go through all of them. Without showing the faces, it's hard to remember all of this. But these are some of the these are some of the PORs, or the persons of responsibilities, that is helping to make all the program happen. Next slide, Stan. Okay, so it's still me, right? Okay, so if you're coming to the club in person, we actually have club membership cards printed already. They are ready to be picked up, I think, after October 1st, because that's the cutoff date for membership renewal. Of course, people can still join the club after that date, but after October 1st, the club, the membership tags will be ready for pickup. I think I'll be arranging a pickup date sometime in October, which means that you have to come by the club to pick them up. You'll be given, I think, the membership card, the tags will be color coded, which makes a new member easier to identify. And also, as you see at the bottom of the screen, new members are paired up with buddies, and buddies are just more experienced or experienced members that would help new members get, break in more easily if they have any questions, any concerns. They have someone they know already, their buddy in the club, and they will be identified that way. And here, the history of the club, we are if not the oldest, one of the oldest camera club in the world, I think, because if you look back 129 years, which is well before our time, that's when the first camera was invented. So shortly after the very first camera was invented, there was a Toronto Camera Club. And we've come a long way since then. This is the founder of the club, Alfred Stieglitz. And let's see the next slide, because there is a major introduction of our, I was going to talk about the club facilities, but here.
You want to go back?
Does it say anything there? No, but maybe I'll just briefly touch upon it, because maybe it will be up later in the introduction. So the current premise that you're unfortunately not able to go into as yet on Mount Pleasant was purchased by the club in 1965. Someone very some sort of financial wizard, and being able to mobilize the then membership to pull all the funds together to purchase the club facilities. We're the only club that owns a building of our own. So this is the club premise on Mount Pleasant in 1965. And in 1978, it was completely renovated for the purpose of our club meeting. So if you're able to go into the club, there's a big auditorium where we meet. There's a kitchen, a waiting sort of a cloak room on the main floor. On the second floor upstairs, there's a gallery where we exhibit prints made by by members, and sometimes we exhibit other people's prints. And downstairs in the basement are the washrooms, as well as a room for the dark room, a wet dark room, which was just newly renovated. So it's fully functional. I think it will be open. I think maybe we'll talk about that later. So I think that's all. I'm just going to skip this, the detail of the premise until maybe when we come to it later. So this is just a brief message about the purpose of photography. I think this is a good place for you to be able to share your work and to meet other members of sharing your same hobby and passion. Next slide. Is there any more I have to say, Stan? Let's see.
Okay, thank you, Christopher.
Okay, all right.
So our next presenter is Dror Orbach, who has been a member for 10 years. He's our competitions and awards chair, covering a huge amount of detail, and has also been responsible for updating these presentation slides. So it's all yours, Dror.
Thanks very much, Stan. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'd like to talk first of all about the different types of club activities, and this is not comprehensive, but it does give you a feel for the breadth of things that we do. We have meetings every Monday night during the season, and also certain other nights, Thursday nights for lectures, and some other nights on occasion. And competitions form a big part of what we do at the club. And those are really friendly competitions that help us develop as photographers. Since joining the club, I started immediately participating in these, and it's always a challenge. It's a nice way to make sure that I'm taking some time to take some photos and work on them and submit them, and I can see what other members are doing. I can see what the judges comment or how they score images. So it's always very interesting to participate and also to see what other people do and get all sorts of ideas and then practice them. So these competitions they come in different types or different categories, as you can see there. The first one being pictorial, which is really about images that have an overall realistic appearance. So they're not manipulated to the extent that you wouldn't recognize what the subject was. Moving on to creative, that's kind of the opposite. Those are images where you have an idea and you want to tell a story through the image and the way that you manipulate the image or edit it, to the extent that the image is actually clearly not a realistic image. And that's actually something that needs to happen in order for it to be eligible for this creative competition. Prints. Okay, that's already, no, you've jumped too fast. Go back one, please.
Yeah. Sorry, it just.
Okay, this is about assigned topics, but I'll just talk about prints for a second. No, there's nothing previous, Stan.
Anything on the print?
Okay. I'm not sure there's actually a little box for it. Prints are in monochrome or color. We have different competitions for monochrome prints and color prints. The subject matter is completely open. And of course, we haven't had them since COVID, unfortunately, because those require a lot of physical handling and they require physical judging in the building. So we're hoping to be able to reinstate that competition this year. At the end of the day, there's nothing like seeing a print of an image that hangs on the wall as opposed to just seeing what we can see on a computer. Our assigned topics competitions are based on different topics that we select. The members actually respond to a survey every year with a whole list of topics that they might want to try. And then the chair of that competition, based on the majority vote, selects the topics for the year. So this season, we have the first of three competitions, which is about minimalist images or macro images. And you can select one or the other. You can have three images submitted, so they can be three of either one or any mix of both of them. In the second competition, we'll have abstracts or night photography. And the third, which is usually a series of images conveying on a particular topic, will either be discarded or lost objects or turrets and spires. So these are the topics for this season. If you happen to come across them, or you see things that relate to that, or you want to prepare for that, you know in advance what they are, so you can start thinking about it. Each one of these competitions, I should have said, most of them we do 3 times a year. Prints is twice a year. The pictorial is 3 times, creative 3 times, assigned topics 3 times. Nature, which is the next one, is also 3 times a year. And in nature, we have 3 categories of images. Those pertaining to plant life are in the botany subcategory. Animals in zoology and landscapes or anything else would be in general. So over here, you can submit 3 images for any competition in either whichever mix of these that you want to. Audiovisual presentations are very involved in terms of making them. They're created out of many images, and they tell a story. So they feel like a video, but they're not actually a video. Up to 15% of one can be a video. I think there's a whole slide about them later, so I won't get into details. but they are a presentation that you can sit down for 2 to 7 minutes and watch about a topic that the maker has chosen to talk about. The International Salon, Christopher mentioned before, and no, that don't go ahead yet, please, Stan. There just aren't call outs for these. And there are some inter-club competitions too. So the OCCC, the Ontario Council of Camera Clubs, organizes competitions that are across all the clubs that belong to that association, and as does CAPA for any club in Canada. And we have some regional competitions of that type. We also have informal competitions, which are not always competitions. They're just evenings where we may share images about some sort of topic that we decide upon. What was I just missed a question there. Let me just see what that was. Can we expect feedback for any competitive submission? So there are two types of feedback that if you submit an image to a competition that you receive. One feedback which you always receive is the score given to the image by each of the 3 judges. Normally there are 3 judges judging any competition, and the score will be anything from 5 to 10. The second piece of feedback is a verbal comment. And usually we allow 1 comment per 3 images. So if you're submitting 3 images to a competition, say pictorial, you can request a comment for 1 of those images, and you will receive a comment on it from 1 of the judges. That tells you what they like about the image, what they think is good, where they think it could be improved, and so on. Judging nights, again, pre-COVID, we were able to attend in-person judging nights. Now, since in the last year and a half, all of our competitions have been judged remotely and online by judges, so you couldn't attend that. And in future, we may have a mix. But what I think a lot of members have found is if they, only a small number can actually attend a judging night because the room is small, but it's very educational and interesting to see the judging actually happening live. And you learn a lot by looking at the interaction between the judges and what they have to say. Lectures, we'll talk about later on. Christopher also mentioned the lecture series earlier. Workshops of different types, evaluation meetings, all of those are types of things that we do. And the social aspects of our club are also important. We get to meet not only in outings, but also when we can meet in person. We would have people go to the pub close by in the same block as the club and just have some social discussion after. And we also have coffee breaks each evening when we meet at the club in the middle of the evening, so that we can just grab a cup of coffee or tea and have a bit of a chat with other members. I think that's probably enough about this slide. So, competitions, as I mentioned earlier, they're really about learning, growing, and also to some extent getting recognition for your achievements as you continue to grow as a photographer. And we have 3 divisions. We have a beginners division, which by default any new member would be joining, advanced and masters. And you progress from beginners to advanced and from advanced to masters by winning awards in competitions. Generally, the rule of thumb is that in a competition, somewhere between 10 and 15% of the images submitted will win one or other form of award, whether it's an honorable mention, a runner-up, or a top image for that particular competition or subcategory. And so when you win 10 competition points, 10 of those awards, as a beginner, you then move up to advanced in the next club season. You can move immediately, but you definitely move up in the next season. And when you win 25 honor points, which are, you get these awards as an advanced member, you would go up to masters. Now, if you're an experienced photographer and you're joining the club now, you can elect to move directly into advanced or masters, depending on your level of proficiency. and you can compete in those divisions immediately. What you cannot do, though, is you cannot go down a division. You cannot downgrade your division. So if you've joined us and you are experienced and you join in the advanced division, you cannot go down to beginners after that. So that's how that works. Next slide, please. So I'd like to just give you some examples of images, representative images. These are all winning images, images that won awards. But for each of these competitions, I'm going to show you one image from somebody in the beginners division, which has a B in brackets at the end, one from a member in the advanced division, and one from a member in the master's division. And you'll just see some of the variety of images that our members submit to competitions. So in nature, in this example, you can also see not just the different divisions, but you can see the different subcategories of nature. Pat Zest's image is in botany, of course. Mona Turnbull's is zoology, and Brent Chambers, that image is obviously in general. Some examples from the pictorial competition. Again, the subject matter for pictorial is very open. It can be almost anything. What we do not allow in pictorial are any non-domesticated animals. Those have to be submitted in nature or in something else that has an open subject matter. But other than that, you can have any kind of subject matter in here. Next one. These are some examples from creative. There are a lot of different ways of being creative with images. So it's impossible to represent the variety that you get here in with such such few images. But you know, this may give you a feel for some of what we've had there. Makers have an idea, and they bring that idea across through the way they manipulate the images and what they create. These examples are from prints, and these are the only examples that are not from the last club season. They are from an earlier season, obviously because of COVID, and we did not have the prints competition. Let's continue. Some examples from assigned topics. Last season, we had a number of different topics, as we do every season. And you can see here, geometry was one of them. And that Glass and Steel by Razodino was the image submitted, one of the images that won an award there. Reflections was another topic. And stairs was a topic as well. So audiovisual presentations are a little bit more complex, and they take a lot of time to create. And that's why there's a specific slide to talk about them. I'm not actually going to play you one, but they are a sequence of still images with some video, not exceeding 20% of the playtime of the audiovisual presentation. And it can include a lot of elements. It can include music and text and background sound, narration, and different types of transitions. So you can be very creative about how you want to put together images into a presentation that conveys a message around a topic. Again, usually they're 2 to 3 minutes long, but they can be up to 7 minutes long. And having a longer essay is not necessarily always the best thing to do. The best thing to do is the length of presentation that feels right in terms of how you're conveying your message. There's specialized software that is used for that. And the competition here is a little bit different in terms of the levels of members. It does not follow the regular beginners, advanced, and masters scheme. But here we have novice and expert, where an expert is somebody who submitted and won an award in the audiovisual competition in the last 2 years. So if somebody is a novice today, they win an award, they're an expert in the next competition, at least for the next 2 years. And then if they didn't win, they move back. Now, just if you can just go back for a second, I just wanted to highlight one more thing. The subject matter is completely open, and there are very diverse topics that people have. So for instance, last year we had Crossing the Panama Canal. Sheree Jeter created that. She'll talk a little bit later about our lecture series. Something about Morocco, which was created by Anna Limi. An essay called Mundane Art Transformed by Gareth Jones, and The Birds of Costa Rica by Pat Zest. And then Heavenly Bodies by Victor Peters, all of them very, very different topics and very different look and feel.
Joe, I just want to interrupt very briefly. There will be a workshop on AV shows on October 5th. And so we will talk about how to create these slideshows, AV shows on that date.
Great. Thank you, Christopher. It's actually back to you for the evaluation group. So timing was perfect.
Okay.
And thank you.
So the evaluation group is new. It's a new initiative because I feel that especially for new members or for inexperienced photographers, if you may feel somewhat intimidated to enter so-called competitions, which is a big part of our club activities. So these evaluation sessions are designed specifically to help introduce you to sort of what the judging process and to give you an opportunity to have your images sort of informally evaluated. There is actually, on this slide, the number of the panelists only indicated 4 names, but this is true for tomorrow night's first session, which is for pictorial. There will be 3 other panelists for nature and 3 other panelists for creative. So we have evaluation session for pictorial, nature, and creative just about a week before the deadline of the sort of the entry deadline for those competitions. Now, if you submit an image to be evaluated, you will be the maker will remain anonymous. We will not actually physically make any changes to your image, but we will point out any strengths or weaknesses of your image. You have an opportunity to make some adjustments if you like. And you have an opportunity to actually enter that image into the competition if you like. But nonetheless, it will give you some feedback in a very friendly, non-competitive environment. So that's what's happening tomorrow for all new members. I would suggest for you to pop in or to join us and see what it's all about, because I think it's in a very it's a learning experience as well. And I think the more images you look at, the more opportunity you have a chance to evaluate them, helps you broaden your own vision. Next slide. Is there any more I have to say, Stan?
No, it's actually Lily, and I don't see. Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much. I don't see Lily Markovich here. Is she here? I don't see her.
Yeah, if not, I can talk about it, I suppose, because I've already touched upon it earlier on. And so this is the major international competition that we run every year. It is. I think the deadline is November, sometime in November, and the judging will be shortly after the deadline, and the results will be revealed in early January. And so, as you can see, this is one of the oldest international competitions in the world. You can also see the number of images submitted was over nearly 6,000 images last year. A major competition. A lot of people joining camera clubs are into this type of competition, believe it or not. And because if you enter these salons, which are, I think there are over 100 of them every year, these are run by various camera clubs. They have to conform to certain rules and regulations. And if they are sanctioned by these organizations, then your results will be tabulated every year. And actually tabulate over a number of years, because your results will garner sort of international recognition, including top photographer, top 10 photographer of the world, what have you. So here it says yes. So this year's competition deadline is November 6th. You can check I think we will be promoting this every week, and the deadline is coming up in November. And Lily, who unfortunately cannot join us, but she is in charge of this competition. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Chris. Next, Dermot, are you
Yes.
around?
Yeah, No, I'm right here.
I just wanted to mention that Dimit is a member for 9 years, and he runs the workshops to improve your photography.
Thank you. Thank you, Stan. I think saying I run them is a bit of a overachievement. I try to organize them. And for new members, what we try to do is, and first of all, these workshops are held on Thursday nights. They share Thursday nights with the lecture series and with a number of other activities. So they're sort of spattered through the schedule. And if you go onto the calendar, you'll find them listed in the calendar. And a few of them are yet to be defined. The idea of this is for members. We have a lot of members and a lot of members with a lot of knowledge. And the idea of this is to share that knowledge with other members who don't have that specific skill set or knowledge set. And so it's a way of members working together, sharing information with each other, helping each other. And I've only been doing this. I started last year. Alice asked me, would I organize the workshops and manage them. And so I've agreed to do that. And I'm doing it again this year. This year we have a pretty good selection of workshops coming up, and by a variety of members. They include things like, there's one mentioned here on December 2nd, Improve Your Photography, which unfortunately for you is done by me. It's a bit of an oxymoron to think that I would help anybody improve their photography, but that be so. There's also workshops on things like portraiture, street photography, focus stacking, astrophotography, etc. Quite a variety. What we did this year, we did another survey of all our members to ask them what they would be interested in. And we did a survey of all our members asking them what they would be willing to present. And we brought the two together and tried to get presenters to match the most in-demand subjects. So like I said, they're scattered through the schedule. And if you go through the calendar, you'll find them. They're on Thursday evenings and under the title of workshop. And there's quite a selection. And I think I think a lot of them would be very beneficial for new members. Now, some of them are quite specific, like astrophotography. We have a member who's offered to do a workshop on how to do astrophotography and the post-processing of photos. That's one that I'm really interested in following and attending. So these workshops are not necessarily just for beginners. They're for lots of people. There's another one where we're looking at doing another workshop on focus stacking, which is a technique of getting very detailed in-focus photographs at the macro level or in other areas. And like I said, we have one on portraiture, we have one on street photography, we've one on, there's a couple more I'm forgetting, and I apologize to the presenters because I've forgotten which they are, but they are listed in the calendar. So I would encourage all of the new members to join the workshops. Last year we had a typical attendance of 25 to 30 people, mix of new and experienced. And they're a great opportunity for asking questions, getting answers, and just attendees sharing information, not just the presenter. So I'd encourage everybody to attend and enjoy them.
Sorry to interrupt, Dermot. You are too humble. You are a very accomplished photographer yourself.
No, I don't think so.
But anyway, just a small change. The Introduction to AV Presentation Workshop, originally scheduled for the 30th of September, has been changed to October 5th. Because the 30th of September is supposed to be a new holiday. We were not sure when we set up the schedule whether it is what kind of holiday it is. So to err on the side of just in case we are not really should be meeting or anything, so we've canceled any activities on the 30th. So anyway, that is moved to the October 5th, the AV presentation workshop.
Okay, okay. fantastic. And by the way, if anybody wants to get in touch with me, they can email me. My email is available. I am fortunately leaving for Ireland on Monday, and I won't be back until the 5th of November. So, but I will be online, and I will be attending presentations, etc. So that's it for me.
Thank you very much, Dermot. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Stan.
Have a safe journey.
Thank you. And if you'll excuse me, my daughter is visiting from Berlin at the moment. Tonight's her last night, so we're having a family dinner. So
Enjoy.
I have to split my attendance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we've got, guess who? Christopher Sue again talking about outings.
Okay, I guess these are, so there are two types of outings. I'm in charge of the weekend outings, which means that it is not only one day, it is actually involving generally 3 days out of town outings. So because of the pandemic, the outings that I'm organizing this year will not be in the usual format. Usually we have a fairly large group, maybe 30 members attending these outings. And I would block book a number of rooms in a hotel, and we will share, well, we will all meet in that hotel. We have meet and greet sessions, and then we head out for dinner together, and then we go and take pictures together. This year, it will be informal in the sense that I didn't do any of that, but you can certainly join the outing. I'm going to be talking about that tomorrow night, I think, or is it tonight? I think tonight, sorry, it will be tonight, later, after the presentation on how to submit your images for competition. I will be doing an orientation for the Algonquin Park outing, which is scheduled for October 1 to 3. So what happens, I'll describe what's happening during these outings. Generally, it's so that we can all get together, as you can see in one of the pictures. We all gather together and set up our tripod to tripod, shoulder to shoulder, and we'll take pictures of sunrise and sunsets or moose. In that, if there's a moose in Algonquin Park, I'm going to catch it this time. But it's a lot of fun. I think people enjoy taking pictures with each other. So these are the weekend outings. There will be one in May next year. I'm hoping to go to Point Pelee. I did plan to do that last year, but we canceled it because the park was closed due to COVID. I think the parks will be open this year. So stay tuned. But the Algonquin Park outing, I'll be talking about later at the end of the evening's program.
Christopher, sorry to interrupt you, but you're going to be talking about preparing for competitions after the break.
Yes, and then the Algonquin orientation will follow that as well. But that's a short orientation presentation.
Okay.
I think I'll do that and then maybe post it in the website and see if whoever misses, who has missed tonight's presentation can maybe catch up on that. Should I be talking about the local outings? Is Mary Ann here?
So yes, you can do that. Please.
Well, so the other type of outing is just a day outing in the local area, usually within GTA somewhere. Over the summer, I happen to have organized one such outing to the area south of Edwards Garden to Wilkett Creek Park. And 17 of us went one morning to take pictures of macro subjects, practicing focus stacking and various macro techniques. And so we're hoping to organize these local outings. We're looking for people to make any suggestions. Anybody who is familiar with their neighborhood, if it can be productive in terms of a small group of people taking pictures together, then they should contact Mary Ann Griffin, who is in charge of organizing these local outings. So these are one day outing, generally a morning, a Saturday morning or Sunday morning, meeting somewhere, taking pictures and having lunch together if it is still possible. I think it's possible to have lunch together these days. So those are the local outings. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Let me see here. The next presenter is Sheree Jeter to talk about the lecture series. Sheree joined us in September last year and has won numerous awards, including 2 acceptances on the International Salon last year, including an honorable mention, and has in this short period already volunteered to be the co-chair for the lecture series. Welcome, Sheree.
Thank you, Stan. Well, good evening, everyone. I am co-chair of the lecture series with Lawrence Bernstein. He sends his apologies for being absent tonight. He's currently in Vancouver, welcoming a new granddaughter. Tonight, I shall share just a little bit about the lecture series due to the time constraints here. More details will follow at a Monday meeting sometime in the near future. So the lecture series is an annual event here at Toronto Camera Club. And thanks to Mano Mulcarney, who has stepped down this year from this committee, but he's still an active executive member, we continue to be sponsored through his effort by Henry's, Canada's greatest camera store. We have a 12-speaker lineup, and I'm excited that this year we have an equal balance of 6 male and 6 female presenters from the US, Canada, and possibly as far away as Sudan, depending on FT Network's schedule for next year. They have been carefully selected for you based on the photographic interests of our club members, as well as on their expertise in their genre of photography, from outdoor to travel, creative and conceptual, botany and architecture, to editing and understanding the business of photography. So I've written up their biographies, which may be read at your leisure on the website under the Talking Photography tab. So I shan't go into too much detail on each speaker here. Also, the dates, as they approach and we get closer to their presentations, the newsletter will cover that in more detail as well. So starting October 7th, these lectures will be held every Thursday over Zoom from 7:30 to 9:30. And in-club attendance for 6 of these talks will be dependent on the COVID guidelines at that time, as it's ever changing and impossible to commit to so far in advance. Every lecture will be recorded and will be available for 2 weeks only. The Zoom links will be under the members tab, and then on the sidebar, head down to the Zoom links Talking Photography. Please know that your attendance to these lectures are included in your membership, and should you wish to bring a guest, a small fee of $10 is required per person, who are not members, I mean to say. In fact, this event is open to the general public, and you are invited to spread the word to help boost the income of our club. I think I shall stop there. Please feel free to reach out to Lawrence or me should you have any concerns, questions, and suggestions. I am all ears. I shall add our contact links into the chat together with the fall series schedule, should you wish to download that for future reference. That's it for me. Thank you, Stan.
Thank you so much. Well, I'm the next presenter and standing in for Frank Ebert, who is presently in Vancouver. I have been a member for 10 years, and I'm a board member and the Buddy Program Chair. This is my 5th year on the board, after which I have to step down for 2 years before I become eligible again. This rule ensures a constant movement of fresh eyes with fresh ideas. Frank is the darkroom chair and has been a member for 16 years. He has advised that there is no definitive date regarding the reopening of the darkroom, and it will be announced in the weekly newsletter when the time comes. If anyone is interested in participating in our darkroom activities, they may contact him directly, and then he can give them more personalized information. The darkroom has undergone some fantastic renovations, and a new floor is presently being laid, With great thanks to the building committee of Mike Fehlhauer, James Douglas, Bruce Taylor, led by Shelley Hazard, and the talent of Jim Crawford and Gord McElroy. I'm keeping a record of all new members who have completed the short survey and indicated their interest in the darkroom. Thank you, Stan. And now Stan again to talk about the buddy program. Having a buddy at the club can make a huge difference to the speed at which new members start to feel comfortable and begin to participate and enjoy the activities of the club. Just knowing there is someone there to listen who is genuinely interested in helping you can make new members feel supported. At Toronto Camera Club, we recommend allocating a buddy for any new member to our club. You will therefore have one email address or phone number to contact or call should you have a question or concern. However, if you do not want a personal buddy to start off with, please understand that you will not receive any lesser treatment or information because you will find that all members are your buddies. Please do not hesitate to talk to anyone because you will find buddies all around you. The new members committee is comprised of the chair, Nora Jancic, Kathy Moore, and Mary Ann Griffin, and you have their contact information on the email I have sent to all new members. I have not been able to allocate a buddy to all new members yet, but that should not stop you from contacting me or members of the new members committee. Thank you, Stan. And our next presenter is Kathy Moore, an amazing creative photographer in her own right, and she's standing in for Mary Ann Griffin.
Okay, so we have a group called the Creative Inspiration Group, and we meet, last year we met once a month. This year the timing has changed a little, but you can find out about when they are by checking the calendar on the website, and they will be announced through the newsletter. So basically what it is it's a group where people who like to do some creative photography, whether it's composites or in-camera creativity type of things, can share some of their work. Often, what we did last year, which was quite inspiring, was that we had a theme for each meeting, and we would, expand our experience or experiment basically, and try to match or come up with something to meet that theme. So I think this year it's going to be run in a very similar way. And like I said, the only difference is the timing. And the timing is such that we will have our creative meeting to share stuff and then maybe talk about the next theme. But there will be time to create something, and if you have something ready to share with let me get all this straight, the evaluation group, because they are having one of their themes is for creative. So they have like one for all the different competitions, one being creative. And then you can get some feedback on that before the actual competition. So it's almost like a 3-step if you want. You don't have to join it, but it is a great way of, being inspired by other people's work, hearing how they do it, where they come up with their ideas, what techniques did they use, things like that. So if you're interested in anything like that creative, then join one of our meetings.
Marianne, can you tell me what day of the week you meet?
Kathy Moore. Sorry to interrupt. It's Kathy Moore speaking.
Yes, I'm
Oh,
speaking.
sorry.
That's okay. I'm speaking for Marianne. She isn't able to come. What day of the week? Usually it is Monday nights before our regular meeting.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Yeah. Thank you.
you're welcome. Any other questions? That was a very good one that I missed. Okay,
Anybody else? Yeah, so that's it. Kathy, thank you very, very much.
on to you, Stan.
Okay. So now we've got an opportunity to ask questions. We maybe can dedicate about 5 minutes or so. If you have questions, we'd be happy to answer you. This is the new members committee. Nora Jancic is away at the moment, and that's why I'm doing the leading today. Kathy Moore has just spoken to you, and Mary Ann Griffin is also away. So, and as far as the buddy program, I'm here, and David Hillock and Matt Fripp are not here. So fire away. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to try and answer them for you.
I do have a question. Steve Tissenbaum.
Hello, Steve.
Hi. I'm sorry, it took me a while to get in. I did finally get in with the help of Kathy, I think it was. But my question is, first, if you could define pictorial again, and then is it possible to submit photographs for tomorrow evening session, or is that, I saw there was a deadline of, I think it was Sunday, the 19th.
Maybe I can answer that question because I'm Christopher Sue. I'm running the evaluation session tomorrow, Steve. I just read your question on the chat box. I'm new to this myself. I'm trying to figure out how I can type the answer to you. So yes, so for tomorrow's evaluation, the deadline is supposed to be on Sunday. But if you want to send it to me directly, I will see if I can put it into the session for tomorrow. And you're welcome to attend it in any case. If somehow if your image didn't make it into it, you can look at the comments that we make for others. But in order to send me the images, you have to send it to me directly. And I think my email is in that newsletter. It's csiou@rogers.com. Do you have that email address?
I have the email from last week. In fact, I couldn't find.
So that would be correct. Send it to me right away. So that I can fit it into the schedule. So the images will be evaluated by the panelists tomorrow, which includes Pat Zest, Mary Ann Griffin, and Dermot O'Carroll. And the subject matter for pictorial is generally it's a realistic image, so you can manipulate it in any ways you want, but it has to look like it has to look real. So that means you can do any kind of color adjustment, cloning, removing things, putting in things, as long as it looks real, that it's not been changed. And the only other stipulation is that there should be no wildlife in it, because if it's a wildlife, it normally should go into nature instead of pictorial. It can be in black and white. It can be in color. There's no restriction as far as whether it can be monochrome or color.
So actually, I just want to add as well, Christopher, that this year we are making a change in pictorial in that the third pictorial competition will only be monochrome. The first and second competitions can be either color, monochrome, anything you want. The third will be monochrome only, following the success of our monochrome digital competitions last year that replaced prints. So we don't have those as a separate competition this year, but we do have it as the third competition of pictorial. The other thing I wanted to mention is that the competition rules are on the club website. You can find them. There are updated rules. I'd encourage you to take a look at them. If you either aren't familiar with them or are new to the club, it makes sense to go and take a look and read them. And let us know if you have any questions after you check them out. You may feel free to contact me as well with a question, and I can be reached at I'll write it in the chat. But my first name dot my last name at TorontoCameraClub.com.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to just mention to Steve is if he could sit in on the evaluation. even if you don't get your work in, you learn as much by your peers, by what your peers have done. And I found that in the competitions to a great extent, of where you pick up looking at what your peers are doing and seeing their work. You learn as much from their work as you do from your own work that you submit. Anyhow, I just thought I'd pass that along.
Thank you, Gary. I will do that, and I look forward to it. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey guys, I have
And
a,
thank you, Christopher. Yeah.
sorry. Hi, it's
Go ahead.
Fred. I have a couple questions if I can. So the first one is on the image size, dimensions. So it says 14 horizontal, 1050 vertical. So if it's a portrait oriented image, does that mean that the image is 1050 by something less on the horizontal?
That's right.
Okay.
1050 by 1050 max. Or no, yeah, if it's a portrait, then it's 1050 by something less.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't 14 long side, you know?
No, no,
Oh,
no.
okay. Okay. The second question I have has to do with entrance levels. So it was mentioned at the beginning of the presentation that you can enter in at beginner, advanced, you know, maybe even master for that matter. I'm looking for some advice as to, or guidance in terms of where to, you know, what kind of guidance would you provide, you know, on in terms of what level to enter into?
Stan, would it make sense for Fred to share some of his images with you, and you know, then you can assess it, or I can help you assess it?
Yes, I was just going now to look if
Well, I have a general comment, Fred.
Yeah.
If you've ever been a member of another camera club, then you will have a sense of what these levels mean. And if you're experienced in submitting images for camera club level competitions, then you are definitely not in the beginners division. So I think the beginners division will be for those who are fairly new to photography, not experienced with any type of camera club level competition. So you can always test yourself. Oh, well, you can enter it at that level if you're not sure, and see how you do. Because at any point you can promote yourself to the next level, or if you happen to win all of those initial entries, then you know that you should be really competing at a slightly higher level. The good thing about these different divisions is that you will be your images will be compared against the other members in your division. So if you are slightly more advanced, you would find that your work will stand out among the beginners in the beginners division. Whereas if you jump right into the advanced, you may find the level a little bit higher than what you expect. And it is not nearly as fun if you find that you're being out-competed by other members in that division. So, but it's up to you if you're experienced. And I think Stan may have a chance to look at some of your work and he can advise you. But I know that the next competition's deadline is coming up on Monday, I think. So hopefully there's some advice given to you by Stan before that time.
Yeah.
But in any case, you can just make sure that you enter a level if it is appropriate for you, or slightly below what you think you should be in, because you can always advance yourself. Whereas you cannot step back down if you realize that you're not.
That's a great comment, Christopher. And you know, Fred, I can tell you that in the last several years there have been several members who joined at the beginners level, and you know, immediately won some awards in the beginners in the competitions, and then decided to move into advanced, without having to without waiting for the season to complete.
Gotcha. Okay.
I just wanted to let you know that when I joined the camera club, I thought I knew everything. Turns out I didn't, but I started in the beginners. And I think one of the reasons was because I didn't know that much about the camera club. And it really helped me to just kind of learn, find my way around before, so everything wasn't so overwhelming. It didn't take that long to move up to the next category. So yeah, don't feel just because you're joining as a beginner, you're actually a beginner, because there are lots of people who join in that level and are more than, yeah, it doesn't take them that long to advance up.
And to go back to your first question about the resolution, the reason why it's wider than taller is because people's monitors are wider than taller.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yep, it does.
Right. And same with our digital projector at the club, right?
Mhm. Great, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a question. The Zoom links. I know there's the Monday, there's the link for the Monday, and then there's the link for the Thursday. And then someone indicated yesterday that if it's a Tuesday or a Wednesday, then you use the Thursday link. But
Monday.
tonight's was a Monday link in the email. And so what is tomorrow's link? Is it a Thursday? And it isn't always in the newsletter. I couldn't find.
I think it's always the Monday. If it's a Tuesday or Wednesday, if it's an odd Zoom session, just go for the Monday. The Thursday is different because that is your lecture series.
Okay, so everything is for Monday then.
That's what I read.
Yeah.
Right now, they're all the same. So there's only one Zoom link and it works for all our meetings. The only change.
Okay, because last night someone was saying use the Thursday.
It used to be a different Zoom link, but I just noticed myself that it's actually the same. But come October, we may be changing that because that's when the membership renewal should be completed. So only paid members will have access. I think we will be changing the Zoom link so that paid members will be able to see the new Zoom link in the membership section. And so you can no longer use the same old Zoom link.
Yeah, but it'll still be the same every week, right?
Yes,
It's just
otherwise
we'll
it'll be the
change it
same. Yeah.
come October.
So
But like,
it might be helpful just for new members, because I got confused and I read a lot and I always follow through and look through websites. If it's indicated, that all of them are for Monday, except the Thursday is the lecture series and workshop one.
actually, the workshop one is still the Monday one. The only ones that are different is the lecture, and there'll be a different link every lecture.
Okay, you see, yeah.
Right. Because the thing is, we invite the public in,
Yeah.
and we don't want the public to have access to the same code, membership code, right, that our members use.
That makes sense. I understand that. It's
Right.
just, I was scrambling to try to find out what tomorrow's one
Yeah,
was.
no, it'll be the same one as you used tonight, as you used last night, and as you'll use this Thursday. Because this Thursday is not a lecture.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I also read there's a question earlier by a new member regarding whether there will be any comments received for their submission to our competition. So at the present setup, when you submit to the, when you upload your images to the website, when you enter competitions, you are allowed, you're generally allowed to enter up to 3 images, but only one of them, for one out of those 3, you can check the box asking for a comment. And the comments will be provided by the judge who is judging that competition. So in our present setup, it will be typed in. It will be probably presented when it's presented, but the detail of that comment will be available for you to go over when you look at the competition results on the website. But so that's only for the actual competition. If you're submitting an image for image evaluation, you will definitely get a comment from the panelists, up to 3 comments.
Okay, Chris, there was a new question submitted via the chat from Dan. It says, could the links be in the schedule and the calendar, I assume, or in the program? The reason why we don't make it public in the calendar or the program is, again, because it's for the membership only. It's behind the membership section of the website, just so our members can access it only. Does that
Yeah,
make
so
sense?
the links is already listed there. If you look under the membership section, right at the bottom of the menu, well, the drop-down menu, at the very bottom are all the Zoom links.
Mhm.
So in fact, it's all there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Dan here. So on the calendar page, so even if it's accessible only to members, it would be useful, at least for members then, to have in every event in the calendar, have the link to Zoom. But the
I think
problem
that's
is
a good
that,
point. We can see if we can incorporate that into the calendar.
yeah, but the problem is the calendar is public, so anyone can view it at
Yeah,
this
it's
point. Okay.
Right.
I thought you said that it was only for members. Well, the links are only supposed to be for members, but the problem is the calendar itself is public. Yeah, okay. And anyone can view it, right? The reason why we have a separate section for all the links in the membership section is so only members can access it. Okay, got it now. Sorry. No, don't apologize. I mean, there's a lot of information all at once. So, okay.
And
Thanks.
also we used to put the links in the newsletter, but for the same reason, the newsletter goes out to more than just our members. It goes out to anybody who wants to sign up for it. So we've stopped putting the links in the newsletters as well. You have to go to the members only section of the website.
Just have a question myself. We were talking earlier, there was two discussions. There was Fred and there was Steve. It was Steve that asked about the level of competitions that you wanted to enter into it. Am I correct?
That was Fred.
It was Fred, okay. So I just wanted to see if I had any information that he sent me from the survey. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, Fred, did you completed the survey?
I did, yes.
Okay. Excellent. I'm just going to find that quickly. Anyway, any other questions that anybody has? I'm glad to see one or two members that I haven't seen for a while. They're here again. Fred, okay, Fred, you have given me some, okay, I've got some of your addresses. We can look at that and see some of your photography there.
Sure.
Thank you. We can get back to you on that and see if we can give you some advice.
Thank you very much.
So,
Okay, do you want to take the break now, Stan, and then we'll come back to talk
yeah.
about how to enter competition, how to submit your images for competition, I think.
Okay, so we've got 8:49, call it 8:50, come back at, you want to take 5 minutes or more? Do people need 5 minutes or 10 minutes?
I'll be around, so I'll see if, let's say 9.
9 o'clock.
Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah. So I'll be here if anybody wants to chat a little bit.
Okay. Good. Thank you very much, everyone.
So I'm going to start sharing my screen, but I won't start until 9.
So I'll leave the screen up now.
I'll actually put mine on too. Oh, okay. I cannot start sharing while the other, okay.
Well, I'll stop sharing this and
Okay,
go
all right.
back to full screen.
Okay. Well, anybody wants to chat can do so. I am going to just put my screen on in a few minutes, I guess.
Right.
Okay.
Christopher, I have a question for you.
Yes. Hi, Dan.
That picture in the background, is that a picture? I assume it's a picture you took, right?
Yes, that one. Yeah, it's
Where
in
is it?
Iceland. Iceland at,
Okay.
what is that thing called? What is that mountain called? I forgot.
Okay, that's a good picture, yeah.
Oh, thank you. You have to stand in
Did
the
you
water to take that picture, so your feet have to get wet a bit wet.
That's in
you
Iceland, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I keep
Did you ever
forgetting the name,
compete?
but anyway, It's a very shallow beach, black sand beach. Typically, you can take a very, I think there's another picture that I'll show from that. But this particular shot was taken further down the beach and you're standing in shallow water as the waves are coming in.
When I was there, it was all fogged up. I can't see a thing.
Well, I was hoping for a spectacular sunrise, you know, with the pink clouds and the sun just hitting the tip of those peaks. But as it turned out, it was overcast. And I think when you're traveling, you just make do with whatever you have and you try to make the best of it.
Yeah.
That's okay. I totally missed that place.
Yeah,
Haven't been there. Yeah.
I thought everybody knows about this. But anyway, I think a lot of us, I was very late going to Iceland. I just went there 2 years ago when I think almost half of our members have gone there already. It seems like. But you were there, right, Gareth? You were driving around. I was there in the winter. So
I
joined-
go in 2016.
Mhm.
I only go from the west, south, and the east part. I didn't go to North
Yeah,
Island.
so the more the commonly sort of traveled area. Did you go on
Yeah.
your own? You just drove around on your own.
Just two of us. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. It's only one road, right? So I don't think you can get lost.
Yeah, it's fun. I want to go back again, but don't know
Yeah.
when.
I think they're open for business. So
I know.
I see some other new members whom I haven't spoken to. Ryan, welcome, Ryan. And who else is here?
There's Carlos. I'm pleased to see Carlos there. Felix was talking about you the other day. He says he hasn't seen or heard of you.
I think Carlos joined last year. Did you join last year, Carlos?
Hi. Yes. I'm not new. I mean, I have 7 months with you.
Yes.
But honestly, I lost a lot of meetings. So this year, I think is my years for young, for real.
Okay.
I'm super excited for start for being inside of the competition.
Mhm.
Now I'm gonna put in my calendar all meets. I don't wanna lose any meets. Yeah, I'm super excited for that.
Well, welcome. Have you been traveling? Is that why you missed the meetings?
Just for my job. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I have problem with the schedule, with the hours, but now I have another schedule, so I have my nights.
Well, that's
off.
good.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the good thing about being online is that even if you're, you while you're working, you can still turn on your iPad or something and watch what's happening in the club on the side and pretend to work while you're actually attending a meeting, right?
Yeah. Today I connected late, but yeah, tomorrow I'm going to stay here on time. And yeah, that's it. I just had a kind of this problem for my schedule and running. Also the English I am learning, but now I'm feel ready for the start. But yeah.
Oh, okay, that sounds good.
Let Felix know that you're around.
Sorry?
Let Felix know that you're around. He was worried that he hadn't heard from you.
Oh, Felix.
Felix.
Is Felix his buddy?
Yes. No.
His buddy.
Yes. He's my buddy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. But we had only, I think, 1 month in this buddy program.
Right.
So
yeah. You can be his buddy forever too.
No.
There's no time limit on buddy. You make friends.
Unless he divorced you.
You're buddy for a lifetime.
No. I'm talking. We had only 1 or 2 months together in the program. Yeah. No, I know.
The interesting thing is some of the members that had buddies, they became friends and they traveled together. They do a lot of photography. They became great friends and buddies for life.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So really the buddy program, you know what happens when somebody joins the club, they've got nobody to talk to. If they don't know anybody, then they feel alone. So we give them somebody they can talk to. So you've got an email, a telephone number, whatever. But
Okay.
after a very short period of time, they find other friends and sometimes better relationships than their original buddy. So, you know, after 3 months, maybe they don't even need a buddy because they're moving ahead. They find other friends and they move on. So you don't have to stick to that person. And then when new people come in, those same buddies get new people. So it's a constant rotation of new people coming in. And, you know, I was a buddy to 20 people last year. So, you know, and
Yeah.
and nobody bothers me. I mean, you know, I get the odd question here, the odd question there. So that's all they need is somebody that when they need to talk to somebody, they've got somebody that they know they can talk to. They don't have to hang on to them forever, you know, but they become friends and they communicate, they photograph together, and that's what the whole thing is. It gives you a friendly environment. You don't stand alone in a corner.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna try to stay open here and be more constantly. Yeah, of course.
Well, we're
Yeah, I
working very
appreciate
hard
that a lot.
to welcome all the new members of the club because we do have a rather large club, and sometimes new members can be intimidated by all these strange faces and not knowing anybody. So I think we are making a very concerted effort to make sure that new members are integrated into club activities as soon as possible. And so that's why we organize a lot of special events to help introduce the club to them, and hopefully that they can feel comfortable coming to the club. I think it's even better if we're able to meet in person because the atmosphere is quite nice there. Since we have a kitchen, we have coffee and cookies and whatnot. And also we go to the bar afterwards. I think that always greatly nice. I think the bar is open actually, right? Belsize is open. So I think Stan, Kathy, and I are on the board. We're just hoping that we can start meeting in person. I think Gary was saying that the golf club that he belongs to is open, and so public health do allow us to open and meet in person. But as I mentioned, it only limits because of the social distancing rule. We can only accommodate 35 people in the auditorium instead of 150. So that might pose a bit of a problem because if too many people want to come in person, we may have to allocate some sort of like a system to allocate the spaces to them. So we still haven't figured out exactly how we're going to do that. But I think by the next board meeting, we may have some better sense of how we're going to open the club safely.
Do you have any thoughts of putting in a hybrid system of both a combination of Zoom and in person in that meeting?
Yeah, we're definitely doing that. So we're definitely doing that. Even last year, we were able to do that for the first few meetings until we were told that, well, anyway, it was shut down completely because that was not even allowed. But so we're doing it in a hybrid format. If we're there in person, we'll have the live presentation and it will be on Zoom at the same time, and it will be also recorded. So I think there are 3 ways to catch up with what's happening. And if you're traveling, you can always join online or
well, it's hard to get along Eglinton right now, so it might be the easier way to get up there.
Okay, I think I am going to share my screen. Okay, I guess everybody can maybe see my screen. So I am going to introduce, I think preparing, so I've been doing this for many years because I have been around the club for 27 years, Stan says.
Yeah.
And I've entered almost all these competitions. So I want to, and it's a lot of fun. I was completely immersed in all these competitions. I think some of the members would share this passion for competing. And so I should share some of my insight. Anyway, so let me get this started. Okay. I think usually the first question is for most new members, or if you're new to this camera club competition, you would be asking, why should you be competing at all, right? Because the thing is that you're thinking you're creating a bit of your personal experience, your art, and who can really judge it for you. So I'm going to briefly go over the history. I think I've already mentioned that. There's always been a history of camera club competitions. I think it comes from in the old days when there's arts like painting, and whenever there's an exhibition or a salon, there are adjudicators that select the paintings to accept them so that they can be exhibited. So I think in some ways, the photography competition, I am just thinking, has that type of a common sort of history. So what we do in the International Salon is very similar in that we select the top 10% or top 20% of those entries to be accepted images. And then we also award medals for the more outstanding images. So to a certain degree, we do that with our normal club competitions. So as the Toronto Camera Club has the most competitions of all the clubs, most clubs will have under 10 competitions a year, but we have 21. So we have competitions almost every other week or every week for a number of weeks. And then we have a break, and then we have, so a lot of competitions. This is just in the club level. And beyond that, we have inter-club competitions, which we can enter, which is under the umbrella of the Ontario, let me see if I get the acronym right, O3C, Ontario Council of Camera Club. There are about 30 clubs in Ontario that join this umbrella organization. And every year there is an inter-club competition where we will submit our images, everybody submit their images, and it will be all judged against each other, just for bragging rights, basically. We also have regional competitions. If you have attended last night's meeting, there is the CAPA competition, which is across Canada. And also, of course, we mentioned the International Salon, which is international. But at the club level, I think competitions are meant to be a learning experience, and it is also a fun experience. And I'll get into that with my next slide. So I think the term competitions may be a bit intimidating, but I think you have to think in terms of like playing tennis and keeping scores. So a competition is one that your image will be given a score. So you can take that score for whatever it means, but it is just a feedback to your work. You shouldn't take it as end all and be all, because it is just one set of judges giving you that particular score. We treat it as a clinic, more like a clinic, in a sense that it is a way of trying to improve your work and trying to, well, mainly to get better. Most of the time when you show images to your friend or family, they will not be able to really give you a very objective evaluation. Of course, your image is beautiful. Of course, it is the most beautiful thing they've ever seen. But you really want someone to tell you how it really looked, right? So this is where these competition comes in. They are, you'll see how they're judged. But anyway, the purpose of this is to see what the scores tell you, because the score is a reflection of how they feel, the judges feel your image as it compares to the other entries in that particular competition. So it is generally, they try to be objective, but there's always a little bit of subjectivity, which you cannot avoid. And usually the competition will just pit your image against images in that competition. So they're just comparing the quality of your work as opposed to the other entries in that particular competition. So you're always trying to improve. And I can tell you, when I first joined the club 27 years ago, I have no idea what it takes to what do you do and what happens at that point. There was no such introductory orientation sessions like tonight. And so it's almost like baptism by fire, a bit even more intimidating in some ways. But during the course of entering competitions, other club members will learn to appreciate your work, and we can all watch you as you grow in your photography journey. By entering competitions, you're also creating images with more purpose, because you are more careful. Instead of just taking a picture in a haphazard manner or just a snapshot, you may give it some thought, try to compose it better, And when you see other images being shown on competition nights, you will start to appreciate some of the subtlety of composition, lighting, and whatnot. So I think it is a great learning exercise. And the important thing is not to take the scores too personally. It only means something to you. Nobody really think about, how you did, how you scored. Of course, if you did a very, you have an outstanding image, everybody will remember that. And so the whole purpose is a learning experience. I want to talk about the difference between a novice and the beginner's division. So as mentioned previously, there are 3 divisions. So you try to slot yourself into the appropriate division. It will make it a little bit more fun, because if you are in a if you're in a division that's too high for your level of photography, you may find that you are not able to, let's say, achieve any success. It's more fun when you have a gradual, reward as you're improving. And so at a lower level, it's somewhat easier to attain that. And so it might be a slightly more enjoyable experience as you move up the ranks. I want to indicate that competitions are only suitable if you at least have some basic knowledge in photography. So what camera you use does not really matter. There's no rule as to what camera, and there's no shame in using whatever camera you're using. Nobody really cares what camera you're using, frankly. Everybody just wants to see the image. And if the image is well captured and well presented, that's all that matters. So there's no extra marks given just because you use a certain camera. Now, you need to know at least some camera controls. You need to know something about what you do with the camera. So if you're just shooting in automatic mode still, and completely automatic, and you have no idea why you need to set a different aperture or shutter speed or ISO for that matter, then perhaps you should at least have some basic skills first to make it more rewarding. And you also need to have some basic knowledge for post-processing. In the very minimum, how to resize your image, convert it to JPEG, what does that mean? Or what color space and what image size and naming. We will do that actually tomorrow in the evaluation session. At the very beginning, Dermot will go through that just to make sure everybody is able to resize, rename, put it in JPEG in a smaller scale, like a smaller file, so that it doesn't clog our server. So software, generally people use Lightroom or Photoshop of some sorts. So that means that you should have some basic knowledge of this before you should enter a competition. I think that will be more helpful. If not, then try to pick up some tips and tricks online, maybe on YouTube videos. You can learn almost anything on YouTube these days. So at the bottom of this page, it introduces this image evaluation. So this is something new, and the first session is tomorrow night at 7:30, which I will be conducting. There will be one every Wednesday for the next, either a Wednesday or Thursday. I have to double check whether it's still Wednesday. But anyway, there'll be one each week for the next 3 weeks. Tomorrow is pictorial, the next week is nature, and the following week is on creative. So first off, if you are entering competitions, some of you may have already seen that. You have to log on to the club website, go to the membership section, and you need to create your email address and password. I think once you've joined, you would be recognized as a member, and then you'll be able to access the membership section of the website. You go under the sidebar competitions, and you choose the appropriate competition that you want to enter. And so when you click on that, most competition allows you to enter 3 images. The size new this year is that the size has to conform to 1,400 pixels horizontally by 1050 vertically. If your image is not of the right size, I think the new setup will reject that, and they'll remind you to resize your image. So you can enter up to 3 images. If you want to enter 3 images, you do have to enter them all together, like 3 together. If you enter them one at a time, only your last submission will be recognized. So in other words, if you enter one each time, only the third one would be your entry. Now, up until the deadline, you can keep resubmitting entries. So if you've entered 3 tonight and on Sunday night you decide to change it and enter something else, you can do that all over again on Sunday night. But remember, you have to do it, you have to enter all 3 images. So if you're just exchanging 1 out of the 3, you have to submit the other 2 with that new one together. Because if you just enter 1 more, your last submission will be your final submission. So I hope that's clear. If there's any questions, please interrupt me at any point, because this is maybe a bit of a confusing part. Also, I think I mentioned earlier, when you submit your entries, there is the box to check off for comments, and you're only allowed to check it off for 1 of those 3 images. If you don't check it off, then there won't be any comments given. If you do check it off, then there'll be comments given by whoever is judging the competition, and it will be generally read out during the presentation of that competition, or it can be accessed again if you go to the website, because the score sheet will be there, the spreadsheet, and you can see all the detail of the comments. Any question regarding uploading your entries? If not, I will just move on. If you have any questions, just shout out and interrupt me. So this is the tricky part, the image size. For some reason, sometimes very confusing, and I'm glad that I think Fred brought it up, because it has to conform to this box. So however you want to size your image, it has to be in that box. But it doesn't mean that your image has to be exactly 1400 by 1050. It just means that that's the biggest size it can go horizontally and vertically. So if it's a portrait format, it has to slot in a rather slim 1050 by whatever, 933 or something. And horizontally, if you have a regular 3x2 format, it will be 1400 by something, or maybe that would be more like a 976 or something. Anyway, it has to fit within this box. And also you have to convert your file to sRGB, color space. If you use Adobe RGB, we used to have a bit of a problem with the projector. It may show some funny aberrations. So I suggest converting it. Just remember, don't convert your original. You should always duplicate your file for submitting to the cloud, so that you leave your finished file untouched, because you don't want to suddenly erase it and switch it to this small file. Titles, and yes, so basically here I have already indicated that you can only select 1 comment. The title is anything goes. The only stipulation is in nature. In nature competition, the title for a nature image entry should be appropriate for that category. So if you're shooting an image of a bird, you should just name that bird. That's your title. You don't have to be fancy. You don't have to create anything unusual. Just name whatever that bird, that animal, that plant. If it's it's a general landscape, just name where it is. So it can be, Algonquin Park, or it can be one of the lakes, West Rose Lake in Algonquin Park, something like that. So nature titles should be just a description of what that image is. Otherwise, you can use any image. You don't get any extra points for your title. But for nature images, having a good title would tell the judges you know exactly what you're talking about. If it's indicating a nature story, you should use that in your title. I think the only limit is to how many letters you can fit into that box. I am not sure what it is, but it shouldn't be too long anyway. But so don't write a whole paragraph as your image title. Okay, moving right along. So judging is done by 3 judges. These are what is called accredited judges in the umbrella organization, the Ontario Council of Camera Clubs. And these judges has undergone refresher courses, learn how to evaluate images properly and so on. It's out of 10 points. So each judge will give a score out of 10 for each image. And out of these 10 points, it is allocated like this: 3 points for impact, 3 points for structure, which generally means composition, and 3 points for technical, which includes exposure, sharpness, and so on. I'll explain in more detail what that all means. And there's an extra point, so that only comes to 9 points. The 10th point is generally what the judges would give if they feel that it's a particularly almost perfect image. There's no perfect images, but judges usually will recognize an image that's outstanding, and you get 10. It's an honor to get 10, even if it's just one judge just giving you a 10. So that means it's a perfect score in the mind of that judge. So there are 3 judges giving 10 out of 10 points each. So for each of those subsections out of 3 points, so there are 3 points for impact, 3 points for structure, 3 points for technical. This is how it's broken down. If the image is, let's start in the middle. If the judge feels that that image is a standard image, so it conforms to certain criteria that it meets the standard, then you're given 2 out of the 3 points. So 2 points in each section. If it is above average, then it's 2.5. It's outstanding, it's 3. So it doesn't have to be the same. Judge may feel that you have an outstanding impact, but you have a technical flaw there, which may result in having 3 points in impact and only 2 points in technical, let's say. So it can be broken down in that fashion. So when you add all 3, I guess all the total score together, if all the section is substandard, you will only have 4.5 points, right? Because it's 1.5, 1.5, 1.5. They're generally not the same across the board, but this is just an example. So if it is fairly standard image, so the judge will award you 2 points in each section, you get 6. So 6 is generally the accepted level of competence. So an image scoring 6 points means that it's nothing very outstanding, but it meets all the condition that there's no major flaws in it and it's a pleasant image. But if it is above average, it will be 2.5, or outstanding will be a 9, as you can see. So each judge will award the score, and then you add it, you total it up, so it will be out of 30 at the end. Okay, any questions about scores? Because once you see the competition, you will appreciate the scores right away, because the scores will be generally, unfortunately, it won't be broken down in that fashion. So the judges won't break down. You will not be able to see how they awarded your impact, your structure, your technical. But the scores of each judge will be read out. So you can have a judge awarding an image 9 total points, or 7.5 total points, and 8, something like that. So the judge's score will be read out, and you can get a sense of how each judge has evaluated your image. Okay, so I'm going to go into explanation as to what constitutes impact, and what constitutes structure, and what constitutes the technical aspect. So I'll be using some of my own images for samples. This is what the judges currently are told. Well, this is the most current sort of formula that our umbrella organization, the O3C, is using when we're evaluating images. So impact is actually the first thing that judges will see, because this is what you will see as well when you look at an image, because how that impacts you, that is the first thing you notice anyway, the impact, because everything else falls into line, because that's the second thing you notice. Anyway, so impact can be the mood, story, subject, imagination. I'll just show you some samples of that. So the mood is created by lighting. I think if you look at an image and say, wow, this has some misty condition, it strikes a certain mood. Maybe twilight. So usually I'm just using landscape as an example, but generally at the prime, the so-called magic hour, which is the 1 hour straddling sunrise, 1 hour straddling sunset, is usually when you get the best condition for landscape lighting, unless it is something special, maybe lightning storm or stormy weather or something like that. So that definitely will create a mood which can be full of impact. And subject matter, if you are shooting a portrait, the look on the face, the expression will capture your imagination right away. So sometimes when you look at an image, the first thing you see, like that's the impact. You may then gradually break down what you're appreciating, the composition, the position of the hand, the position of the leg, the line that the pose creates, and so on. So subject matter, again, something that usually something a little bit unusual can create a lot of impact. Something unusual. This is the bean in Chicago. So these are some of my images. I feel that they have a little bit of impact, but I think this is generally what you want if you have an impactful image. So the second is structure. Structure is usually the second thing the judges would look at, because you definitely need to have, the stronger the structure, the stronger the technical, it will increase the impact of your image. So structure is a bit of rules, but rules can be broken. But these are some of the sort of compositional rules that a lot of us either consciously or subconsciously use. So the most important thing is where you place your subject of interest or your main subject in your picture. So in other words, whether you put it right in the middle of the frame, you put it on the side, in the corner, that does affect how that whole image is perceived. Leading lines are elements where it guides the viewer towards your subject. And depth is also a way of increasing the impact of your main subject. If you use a very shallow depth of field, so you only have your main subject in focus, the focused area, the bokeh, does make the subject pop from the background. And generally, you want to avoid distractions. So I'll show some examples of that as well. So placement of your main subject in your image frame does affect the impact, because I can't show it very well here, but if you have the subject right in the middle, generally it's not desirable unless it is something a very strong subject, a very large subject can be right in the middle. But this is just some rules, just general guidelines. Don't treat it as a rule, but these are some of the examples of placement. So placement of this, so even this is a placement of the person not in the middle. So I chose to put it sort of on the one side of the frame. So usually don't put your main subject right in the middle unless it is something that is very, very strong or very large in the frame. Placing it off center, again, sometimes some very subtle lines created by the cloud, the reflection of the clouds can create a bit of a lead, sort of what we call a lead-in line, because it actually, there's an oblique sort of line created by the reflection of the clouds from the bottom left side, or bottom right side, that guides you towards the blade of grass or reeds to the left of the frame. So definitely stairways is a very strong sort of composition, because the lines just kind of spiral away. The important thing is to see where the brightest spot is. In other words, here looking at the ceiling of this building in Chicago, that's the brightest part. And again, whether you want to put that right in the middle or slightly off center. That's your personal choice. Sometimes it may work in any ways you want, but so these are the compositional elements that judges are looking for. This is the same, this is called Vestrahan. I was trying to remember what this place is called. The same picture in my on my background, but taken right on the beach. It's very shallow water. So I'm actually trying to use the wave to create a line, sort of a triangular line coming in both from the left and the right side. And it kind of leads you to the background mountain, which is called Vestrahan in Iceland. Any questions so far? Anyway, shout out if you have any questions regarding anything that you see. Now, the technical aspect of an image is, although it's not the first thing that the judges are looking for, but it will definitely affect the impact of the image tremendously. So generally, if your exposure is off, then that almost, I can guarantee it will ruin everything. Unless that's your intention. Now, so what that means, what I mean by exposure is whether the exposure is correct in your mind. Because if you're taking a night shot, obviously everything should be very dark. If you're taking a picture in a snowy scene, everything should be very light. If you take a picture of a portrait with a low key background, which means it will be very dark in the background, or high key, which is the opposite, very bright, that's your choice. But the exposure is wrong if your main subject is either too dark for us to be able to see it properly, or if it's so bright that it's too bright for us to see properly. So the exposure is dependent on your subject and your image, but there's no hard and fast rule as to whether it should be very bright or very dark. Sharp goes for sharpness as well. If you want it to be completely sharp, then it better be completely sharp. If you don't want it to be sharp at all, in other words, you need to be able to control that. If the judge feels that, oh, this should be very sharp throughout, and it is not, then it will affect your score. The depth of field is a control of the sharpness, actually, because it affects how sharp it is compared to the background, let's say. Whether you have the whole image sharp from the foreground to the background, or you only have the main subject separated from the background because the background is out of focus. And the control of shutter speed will affect how your image will look if you're trying to freeze action, or whether you're trying to convey the sense of movement by panning your camera. So I'll show some example of some technical problems first. And so this is a very common technical problem in that certain parts of the image is overexposed. Now, and that happens usually with something that is very light, like a bright or a white subject, because parts of this swan is overexposed, even though the overall impression of the image is not overexposed, but certain details of the feather is overexposed. And because your eye, even for the judges and for yourself, you can test it. Your eye is drawn automatically to the brightest part of the image, whether that's your intention or not. So whereas the intention is for you to look at the whole swan, perhaps the head and the eyes of the swan, your eyes will be drawn to the brightest part, which happens to be the feather in the back. And some of those feathers are overexposed, so there's no detail there. And so your eyes are fixated to the very bright area. That's generally not your intention, and that's something that you have to watch out for because it can be adjusted if you are familiar with using Photoshop or Lightroom. So you can adjust the brightness of your image. You generally want your main subject or the main area of interest to be the best lit and also the lightest in color, because you want your viewer attention to be drawn to that part of your image, as opposed to something else, the background or another part of the subject, which you don't really want to place any emphasis on. So you can have a subject that is too small. So in this case, you have a very dark foreground. Your exposure to the sunset is nice, but you have a lot of other extraneous material or subject matter that does not help your overall image. An image like this has other problem in that the horizon, which is sort of the line, the edge of the lake, creates a bit of a horizon line, and you generally don't want that to be right in the middle. So these are all common sort of scenarios, because if it is in the middle, it tends to divide your image into the top half and the bottom half. And not only that, if that line appears to be slightly crooked, like tilted to one side, it's sometimes viewers will find it rather disturbing. Although in your mind, you know that the world is not tilted, but if you accidentally make it as though it is tilted, it's generally frowned upon. And so again, something like this can be adjusted very easily if you know how to do some, not a global adjustment, but you can brighten up the foreground and darken the very bright area in the back. If you're taking a picture of a sunset, generally where the sun is your center of interest, like it or not, because that's generally the brightest area of your image. And so sometimes it's not desirable to have the sun right in the image because it's so dominating that you can't really pull your eye away from it to look at something else. So generally for sunrise and sunset, the best time is after the sun has set or before the sun has risen, because there won't be a very bright globe drawing your eye to it. And also the time after sunset or before sunrise, you have the best color in the clouds. I think all of us have experienced that. And so that is a fleeting, maybe 10, 15 minutes before the actual sunrise, or 10, 15 minutes right after sunset. That's when the most color is present in the sky if there are clouds. So that's usually when you wait for that moment to capture your landscape. Movement can be accidental because nowadays all our cameras have autofocus, and you wonder how can you ever have a not sharp image. You can have a unsharp image if you are moving. If you're in the boat and you use an appropriate shutter speed, then that your image will not be very sharp. Now, this is an exaggeration because everybody can see this is not sharp. But when you're taking a picture of something that's moving, that's more likely to create an unsharp image, because you may forget that when you trip the shutter, your camera has locked the focus on that subject just before you trip the shutter. And if that subject is moving, let's say towards you or away from you, then the moment that you actually press on the shutter, release, that subject may have moved a few inches, a few feet. And so you may end up having the background sharp and not that subject that you're trying to capture. So something like that can happen to all of us, or you don't have enough depth of field. So you have something that's not sharp enough. So that happens all the time. And that's something that you have to be very careful about. And so I would strongly suggest first that you need to calibrate your monitor so that you know that what you're seeing on your monitor is what the judges are going to see or everybody else is going to see. Because if you're working on a laptop, you may have boosted the brightness of your laptop because you're working outdoors or something. And your image, even though you adjusted it properly according to your laptop, it may not be the right exposure when somebody else looks at it. And also, if your screen is very small, it will not be projected very large, but it will fill most. I think there's a dimension of the screen that is under the rules of the judging. So in other words, the judges will be able to see more detail than you think if your own monitor is very small. And so you may miss certain parts of the image, not knowing that it's actually not sharp, or there might be some inclusion here and there that you didn't intend, which in effect is in your image and the judges can see it. And so noise, which is a common problem, if you try to boost an image way beyond the dynamic range of the sensor in your camera, or if you zoom in too much, you overly crop an image, and so you're actually seeing all the pixels, the pixelations and whatnot. Also fairly easy to correct nowadays, and a lot of sensors in our cameras are so advanced that you can almost literally take a picture in the dark and you can still have a fairly noise-free image. So these are some of the common mistakes that occur maybe a few years ago. So this is an example of, you might have seen this image in my in the new current calendar. Some examples of creating an interesting subject with a good foreground and a good background and the lead-in line using the grass. So your eye is drawn from the bottom left side as the grass leads your eye. It literally leads your eye right in towards the mountain in the back, which is the Dolomites in Italy. Something that is, so this is an image that the subject is right in the middle, practically, right step in the middle. But I think if it is strong enough, it will just hold your gaze to the middle because there's nothing else sort of distracting your eyes away from it. If you're doing a close-up of flowers, you need the flowers to be completely sharp and you need your background to be completely not sharp, which is a technical challenge. Nowadays, using focus stacking is a lot easier. In the old days, you have to stop down to F22, which creates its own problem, F16 or what have you, and there's movement, a bit of breeze and your subject is moving back and forth. So this is an example of being able to control the depth of field to the degree that you desire. Freezing action of a flying snowy owl will require a much higher shutter speed that is appropriate for a bird in flight. If you have a rather large bird like this, the shutter speed need not be very, very fast. But nonetheless, I would keep it around 2,000 to 3,000ths of a second. So the shutter speed can vary according to what your subject is and how you need to freeze that motion. So this is a sample of panning. I think you've all seen these type of images where you actually try to follow focus on your subject while using a relatively slow shutter speed so that the background is blurred out because of the movement of your camera. So your camera is actually moving along with your subject. And you can do that obviously with water. You choose the appropriate shutter speed for moving water. Generally, it will be, let me see, around, well, so again, it depends on how far you are away from the water. You want to control it to the extent that you want. If you have a very, very slow shutter, the water will lose complete detail and it will just look like foam. If you use a very fast shutter, then you'll see almost freeze action of every drop of water. And somewhere in between is where you have these lines created by the flowing water. And so you might have to experiment with it to see what is the appropriate shutter speed to create the desired effect in a picture with flowing water. Okay, so extra point is given. So this is really an example of what makes an image that stands out. Generally, a good image almost always have good lighting, at least the lighting that's appropriate for whatever subject matter you're taking a picture of. It generally has a good indication that it has a control of depth of field, and it's well composed. So usually if you have a high scoring image, it will always have all of these elements in it. And as you know, capturing the decisive moment is the key. Who said that? But we all know that if it's an action shot, then capturing that is the key. And if you have good emotional mood. So these are all the elements of an impact, an image with lots of impact that may score extra points. Now I'm going to show you some samples of my image. They're not necessarily the ones that have the best of them, but it's my own personal favorite. So you can see how you can evaluate it in your own mind, however you want. But if you want to capture your viewer's attention on their face, you want to make sure that there's no distraction around the edges, nothing that would lead your eye away from the main subject, and that the main subject is the lightest part of your image. So for a monochrome, it should be the lightest. If it is in color, it should still be the lightest, or maybe it should be of a strong color that would keep your eye on it. This image, by the way, is when we went to outings in Killarney National Park, not National, Provincial Park, Killarney Provincial Park. We've gone there numerous times, and this is on the Chickanishing Trail. Difficult to reach because we go there in the summer and we have to hike for about 45 minutes over fairly difficult terrain, if you will, to make it out to the Georgian Bay area. But I particularly like this image because this is the only time that we have some people paddling out there in the canoe. And so I took advantage of using that to create a leading line towards the island in the background. I went to Namibia and I captured this cheetah in the evening, which is, and the lighting is created by the setting sun. A recent image, I went to Antarctica, and these subjects are very close to the path that we're walking on. And so I'm really right in their face, literally. But I think it captured a sort of a tender moment of this penguin chick snuggling in the parent's belly. This is another image taken on that same trip to the Dolomites in Italy. It's a very famous landscape setting. My only regret is that I wasn't really there at the prime time in the day. We were sort of late afternoon getting there, and the lighting could have been even more dramatic if it is closer to the magic hour. But these are some of my own personal favorite images from recent, captured within the last couple of years. Okay, so that covers generally how judges view your image, how they score them. I think ultimately you want to learn how to be your own critic, because sometimes it's hard, because if you look at your images right after you've taken them, you're generally still associating the image with a lot of your own memory of that event. So that means that when you view your own image, you can still remember the whole setting, the ambience, the sound, who you're with, and so on. So you generally cannot be too objective about it. If you wait for a little bit of time and look at it again, generally I look at my image. If I do look at them a year later, then I realize they're not that good. Even though at the time you think, wow, this is the best possible image you've ever taken. But anyway, you need to be able to objectively evaluate your own image, ultimately. You want somebody else to give you feedback, but you also want to be able to objectively look at them. Now, when you enter in competitions, you become much more attuned to the detail of your image. Is it really composed well? Is the lighting really good? if you just take pictures casually without needing to subject them to some sort of evaluation, you may be very casually taking pictures and ignoring some of the shortcomings of those images. Whereas if you're entering it into competition, even though these are just friendly competitions, you become much more aware of how you have to fine tune them. And it's very rewarding if you put something together nicely and that it is recognized by the judging panel. And if it's done well, you feel an extra reward because you know that your effort has been rewarded. Also, at the same time, you're looking at other people's work. Then you're actually learning from it. Then you realize, oh, you can actually compose it this way, or the lighting is good this way. Like, for example, you saw Eskui's portfolio last night, and you open your eyes to new possibilities. You say, wow, you can actually do this type of combination of pictures and sandwiching them, or creating texture and whatnot. So when you look at images in a more critical manner, I think you're already learning and you're absorbing information and you're improving. So I want you to treat competition as a fun thing to do, because I mean, I'm sure all of you take pictures, and there's no shame in showing them, because we all learn from each other. And by sharing them, if everybody don't want to share them, then there will be no competition, there will be nothing, right? And it's kind of boring if you just look at the same old every time. I'm always excited to see new members' work, because it's always fresh, something different, and it actually improves my own photography by seeing other people's work. So that, I think, covers this presentation. I want to see if there's any question. And again, I want to remind everybody that if you want to have some sort of informal feedback outside of this competition type of format, you can submit them to the evaluation sessions. First one coming up tomorrow. If you can't make it for tomorrow, there's one next Wednesday. Deadlines are always Sunday, because I need maybe a day to send the copies to the panelists so that they have a chance to take a look at them beforehand, so that they can make some constructive comments that is more suitable than just looking at them live and then making comments right off the bat. Any questions at all? Okay, if you can think of anything, you can ask your buddy, you can ask me, you can ask Dror. I am generally, this year, I'm involved with a lot of things, which I'm not usually doing, but I guess somehow I find myself being involved with this tomorrow. And there's a workshop on slideshows or AV presentations, which is one of my own personal favorite.